graduated from high school, went to college for a year, actually a semester, had to come home. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And luckily, God put me in a position where I knew people to help me get ahead, and I was able to take advantage of that. And that's when I was introduced to this industry, right? Yeah. And from then, that was 31 years ago, and it has been absolutely treat and a learning experience every step of the way.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Matt Brose with Lockton. In my role, I consult with employers all around the country related to their employee benefits strategy. We're in conversations all the time about how to attract the best talent and get the best out of their people. Work ethic, integrity, those are all traits of people that pursue excellence, and it doesn't even stop there. From the boardroom to the storeroom, we're going to find out what drives those people. Welcome to the excellence culture. This is going to be an excellent adventure. Well, welcome to the excellence culture. My name is Matt Brose with Lockton, and I am really excited to have in the seat next to me Bryant Early, who is the general manager of Glen Country Club here in the Dallas area. And I've had the fortune of working alongside, I guess as a colleague, maybe not alongside at the same club, back when I was in the golf business a while back before I got in the insurance industry. But we worked for the same management company. He was a general manager of a club, I was a general manager of a club, and just the time that I got with you, which wasn't that long, right? But the time that I got with you, I knew that you were somebody that just woke up in the morning and pursued excellence in everything that you do. So you're one of the first people I wanted to have on this because it was related to you that I had the idea of doing these conversations. Yeah. And I was at your member guest at Glen Eagles, and I took a picture of you when you were out grilling burgers for your members, and I posted it on LinkedIn, and next thing you know, I mean, it got a crazy amount of attention, and I just felt like, man, this is something that people want to talk about, where there's just people that go above and beyond in what they do. Yeah. And excellence is not a fancy thing. Excellence is just kind of doing what we're supposed to do, right? Yeah. And you do it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I really appreciate you taking this time with me. I'd love if you just kind of did just a brief introduction to yourself, and then I'm going to probably kind of go past, present, future a little bit with you, and just get your story when it comes down to it.
Man, appreciate you having me, Matt. Yeah. You know, I actually started in this industry back in 1992 as a busser, if you can believe that, right? From Dayton, Ohio. And I got to tell you, before I even got into this business, I never knew private clubs existed, or not where I'm from, right? So out of a whim, I had an opportunity to become a busser at one of a club called Dayton Racket Club, which is kind of a city club.
I was born in Dayton, Ohio.
Were you really?
By the way, yeah.
Where?
But I only lived there for a year.
Okay,
so
all right.
My dad was in the Air Force.
Very cool, right, Pat?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So had an opportunity to take a job there, and my best friend's dad was the maitre d'. So never knew it existed, but by time when I started there, I knew probably by the first month that I was in something unique, because it was a business that challenged somebody like me from where I'm from to have conversations with people, look them in the eye, to have a conversation where I didn't do that before, not where I'm from, right? So it was pretty unique. And from there, busser, server, a captain, which is a leader, service director. And before you know it, I started there when I was 22. By the time I was 28, I left the company to become a GM at another company. So within 6 years, I was my first general manager's job. And
were you still in Ohio then?
I was still in Ohio, right? Wasn't a very good general manager, but I was a general manager nonetheless.
I remember when I became a general manager, I had no idea what I was getting into. Right? I just thought, hey, I played golf. I can do this.
It's a little bit
totally different managing people versus playing golf.
100%. So I had an opportunity to just work my way up the ranks. I've been all kind of over the country. Been to Montgomery, a couple of cities in Alabama, right? Came to San Antonio, Austin, back to San Antonio, now in DFW. But it's been a great journey, right? And every time I go to work, I learn something new. And you talk about excellence. It's defined so many different ways. You know, we could talk about that, but it is absolutely critical in the world that we live in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so critical. I mean, I think we're seeing just the idea of excellence becoming more and more rare. You know, and I don't know, I mean, we can probably say there's a lot of things that are distracting the current workforce. Sure. Technology, social media, all the things that get people waking up in the morning thinking about other things to pursue versus just be the person that we're called to be, you
100%.
know? And so yeah, that's where I hope this kind of conversation goes, is we'll be able to talk about how you're kind of solving for that, talk about how your company is solving for that. But I want to kind of go backtrack a little bit, and I want to hear about your childhood.
Sure.
Hear about your upbringing, you know, any role models you might have had that were a part of, you know, Bryant Early becoming Bryant Early. So,
Well, I got to tell you, it's a pretty deep story, so I'll keep it short. But I got to tell you, it's so I grew up inner city Dayton, and born in 1971, had a pretty good childhood. But as we grew up, if you know about any major city, the inner city, you know, I think industries like Dayton, Ohio, GM, truck and bus plant, all those industries started moving out of the city. So the cities that was so dependent on that kind of dried up. So people needed to work. You know, just the economy got worse in Dayton, and people turned to different ways of making money, right? Yeah. Kind of like drugs and things like that. So, and where I grew up at, I was not sheltered from that. I didn't sell drugs, but I was in an area where that happened. So when I say I didn't know this private club industry existed, I literally meant that. I remember there was a daily fee course, we called it a Muni course then, that Dayton had. I remember the bus driver, our school bus, just ride past it every day, right? But nothing's fancy about it. So that's the only thing I knew about golf, right? Until literally I grew up and was exposed to the private club world. In this case, it was really a dining facility more than anything. And again, it was just an atmosphere that I didn't know existed, but what I realized is that I actually thrived in that atmosphere, right? Didn't know I had it in me, to be quite honest with you. Graduated from high school, went to college for a year, actually a semester, had to come home. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And luckily, God put me in a position where I knew people to help me get ahead, and I was able to take advantage of that. And that's when I was introduced to this industry, right? Yeah. And from then, that was 31 years ago, and it has been a absolutely treat and a learning experience every step of the way. Yeah. It allowed me to take care of my family, right? And I don't want to get too emotional about it, but it allowed me to travel. It allowed me to, you know, it's just everything that I didn't think I would be able to have, right? Yeah. Growing up, the way I grew up, I've been able to achieve it and more, right? So God has blessed me and my family beyond words that I can even describe to you.
I'd like to hear what brought you to Texas. Sure. So I heard about that first GM job that was still in Ohio. What brought you to Texas?
So it's funny. So after my first GM job, I actually left that company. I was recruited to come back to Club Corp at the time. But this time, they wanted to send me back to Montgomery, Alabama at the Capital City Club. I was the assistant general manager there for a year. And
that's not a golf club.
It is not. It's a city club, again, okay. Just dining only at this case, right? Yeah. And I was there for about 9 months till they wanted to send me to Huntsville, Alabama. We had a club down there called a Heritage Club, but we divested that club, meaning they were just going to get rid of it. So I was there for 3 months, staying in a hotel, right? Just trying to get everything packed up before I could move on, right?
How about that job?
I know, it's something else. I was like, okay, does everybody like me or hate me? I don't know. But I finally got the call that said, hey, there is a club in San Antonio that we need you to sit on because the manager just left the club. There's no manager there. You know, go down there. If you like it, you know, maybe it could be your club, et cetera. So I went down to San Antonio. Matt, I remember staying in an extended stay hotel. And the really cool about this story is that my first week there is where I met my wife.
Oh, wow.
Right? We just celebrated our 11th year anniversary, but 17 years together. And
was she from San
She's
Antonio?
from West Virginia, Charleston,
okay.
West Virginia. Okay. But she was there right out of college from Hampton University, working for Sears, right? And I remember going to Valero to get a Hot Pocket, and that's where I met her at Valero, right? It was something funny. But I was
she caught your eye, and
she
you're
did.
like, I want your number?
Yeah, she's beautiful. It was kind of like that what it was, right? But I had my wingman on the phone, which was my best friend at the time. It's like, man, I don't know, should I go up there and say something to her? But it was a pretty cool experience, and she'd tell the story just a little bit different, but it was good. But I was in San Antonio. The regional vice president at the time came to me and said, hey, you can have this club, or you can move on. We can get you a different club, right? Do you want to stay here, et cetera? But at that time, I had met my future wife, so I was like, no, I'm going to stay. Let's stick it out. So that's how I ended up in Texas.
Okay.
This is back in 2006.
And which club was that in San
This was the
Antonio?
Plaza Club, downtown San Antonio. It was
Okay.
in the Frostbank Tower.
Okay.
Right? I was there for 2.5 years before the company, the Dedman family, who owned Club Corp at the time, sold the company to a private equity firm called KSL.
Okay.
Right? And I decided after 2.5 years after being there, it wasn't necessary for me,
Yeah.
which I was then recruited by our compadre, our
mutual.
ex-boss, which is a mutual person that Stephen held to come work at the Dominion Golf Group.
Yeah.
And a funny story about that. He wanted me at the Dominion Country Club for like their number 2 under Aaron. You remember
Yeah.
Aaron?
Yeah.
But the reality of it
Was
is
it going to be kind of like a food and beverage
it was.
focus?
It
Okay.
was. That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
But they had just bought Twin Creeks in Cedar Park,
Okay.
and the clubhouse was not finished, but the course had already been open, and it was owned by Crescent. And Stephen Held and Dominion Golf Group came in and bought it. So he said, "Come up here and stand on this club. Just sit on it for me." Right. And ironically enough, again, 6 months later, it's like, you're not going back. You need to stay here at this club. So that's where I ended up in Austin.
Okay.
And I was with those. I think I was with them for like 7.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were great. You were great there. I remember, I wasn't with the Dominion Golf Group for very long, but I remember being in a room with you with all the GMs, and I remember really wanting to listen when you talked.
Oh, I appreciate that.
So, and that comes with experience, right? I mean, I think you were talking earlier about, hey, you knew the right people and it gave you an opportunity. Well, knowing the right people doesn't usually happen just by chance. Like, you obviously stood out, and you have your whole career. So, kudos. I'm a little sensitive to wanting to talk about this, but I think it's such a meaningful thing to talk about. For me, being in the golf industry for so long, having grown up in golf, played golf in college, then played golf on tour, and then was a general manager of a club, I'm not naive to think that the golf industry is pretty behind the ball as it relates to, let's say, racial reconciliation, equality, et cetera. And I can only imagine you've had some things that you've had to overcome. Do you have anything, to kind of say about that, draw back on any experiences you've had or anything?
It's interesting you say that. I would more classify it as biases versus direct racism, right? And I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure that I'm probably oblivious to some things that people are doing to me or want to do to me, et cetera. But the reality of it is, as the older I get, right, the more consciously aware I become of biases, right, versus the racism that I see on a daily basis, because it doesn't come directly to me as a general manager. And it's funny you say that because I'm actually the co-chair of our company's DEI council, right? And one thing I talk to my staff is about the biases that we consciously and unconscious biases. And I've experienced more of that. And I'll give you an example, right?
Yeah.
There were a couple of times where I come in, I speak to somebody, and they shake my hand before seeing my name tag, and say, "And you are?" It's like, "Oh, I'm the general manager." And you can see their reaction. It's not a negative one, but it kind of catches them off guard, right? As they weren't expecting to see that. Yeah. And then they go into questions like, "You're the general manager of the whole thing, right? It's just a restaurant." It's just, no, the general manager of the entire club, right? Yeah. So that's a bias, in my opinion, that they didn't think that an African American would be in that role, right? I don't think it's a racist thing, right? I just think it just kind of caught them off guard because we are not represented well when it comes to African American general managers in this industry. I'm sure you've worked with us before, right? Yeah. So I think it's just one of those things there, right? Have I had to overcome some things? Sure. Yeah. Do I think the pathway for me could have been easier? Maybe. But I got to tell you, I create my own destiny, right? By using some of that, we were talking about this earlier, using some of that as fuel, right, to prove people wrong if they do have those biases. And that's what drives me, just make sure that I can provide for my family. And I can't change people's perception of me. I could try, right? But if they're going to have a preordained perception and they just want to keep that and that's who he is, that's fine. I can't do that. Yeah. What I do on a daily basis, we talk about excellence. Yeah. Right? Part of that is I walk at the club with my head up and I speak to everybody, right? Even if I don't know them, you say hello to everybody.
That's what I know of you, man.
Right? You just
Yeah.
got to do it. Right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things you got to do in our business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to take that back to that time where I saw you cooking burgers for all the members. I mean, that's how you roll, man. And that's a light.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's a light that probably overcomes the darkness a lot. And so that's really neat. So thanks for kind of sharing about that.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I don't necessarily want this episode to be all about that, right?
Yeah.
Because
But it's part of
it is
society, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's part of society, and it's especially part of the golf world.
It is 100%.
So I think it's a conversation that's meaningful for sure.
I will tell you this, Matt, though. I think within our organization, we are very intentional as an organization to try to break down those walls, either racism or biases. And one of the things that we do, as I was telling you earlier, that we partnership up with the First Tee of Greater Dallas and Fort Worth, and we have what we call the Gateway Program, which allows us to invite youths at underserved communities to come within our clubs to be members all the way through college, right? To have an opportunity.
And it's
to
not
play.
a color thing.
It's not.
But
It's not.
It's an opportunity.
It's
thing.
not. But it allows us to penetrate those underserved communities,
Yeah.
right? Where they could come into our high-end clubs to have a great experience in golf, right?
That's really cool.
The future
So
of golf.
what does that experience look like?
Well, it's funny. So they have to go through the First Tee of Greater Dallas and Fort Worth. Once they get in that program, we get maybe like our club, we have 4 individual kids that come to our club, right? We set them up with member numbers, right? And they can actually go out and play golf. They have a certain time they have to be up there and play golf, right? Free access to the range. Their parents, they don't have member numbers or anything like that. But again, to open up our great quality golf courses to these individuals. And it's all the way through college now, right? So even when they go off to college, they still have access to some of our associate clubs, but they still come home and this is their home club, right? And by doing that, these are future golfers, right? And we love the game of golf. We know in order for us to grow it, we have to start with our youths in all areas, right? And I just think it's going to have a huge impact on the golf industry as well as my industry, the hospitality industry.
Well, hospitality and I would say, you know, in this world where kids have such little interaction with human beings, much less adults, right? But I think that's one thing that I take for granted that I had as a kid the experience that I had as a kid coming up in the golf world is that I didn't stay at home and play video games. I went to the golf course and played golf and had conversations with adults all day, et cetera. And I think that is something that we need, right? And for y'all to be able to offer that to, you know, kids who otherwise wouldn't have that opportunity at all, I think is really, really cool. And I would also say that's probably a significant sacrifice.
I think it's a sacrifice for the right reasons,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. And I just think it's the right thing to do, and that's what I love about Invited now.
Yeah.
Right, is that we are intentional about what we're doing and what we're trying to do.
So is Invited doing that at a lot of their clubs?
Yeah,
around the
so we
country?
have the Gateway in the Greater Dallas area, clearly.
Okay.
But we are instrumental at preserving the game of golf through our youth, right? And really, if we're saying we're going to be a leader in DEI, we're going to be a leader in diversity, we have to go out there sometimes and make it happen, right? So to go out to these underserved communities, and as well as our hiring practices, to make sure that they understand that they can have an opportunity, a future, a career with a company like Invited. That's what we're going to do, right? And this is all led by Dave Pillsbury, our CEO, right? And without him being at the forefront of this, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it sounds like
You know
there's some
that.
good things going on.
100%.
Yeah. So let's talk about just you kind of personally as a manager. Obviously, you have a pretty significant responsibility in kind of elevating the experience that people have at your club, but also just the impact that you have on the lives of your employees, et cetera. So I'd like to know, just put on your general manager hat, what are some unique things that Bryant Early is doing that maybe other managers can learn from, because you are doing a wonderful job. I mean, the experiences that I've had at your club have been great experiences, and it does seem like your employees enjoy doing what they do. And so any kind of unique things that you're doing inside your club that...
Well, it's funny. It's the 3 fundamental things that any general manager must do. The first one is set clear expectations, right? Second one is to is give the tools to do the job. And third one is to ensure execution, right? You do those three things right off the back. Now, that means a lot, though, right?
Ensure execution. I've heard inspect
What you
expect.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
But again, a lot of times, as general managers, we go with setting expectations, but we don't do the other two. Or we may do 2 out of 3, or we may do, the first and the third without doing the second one. We don't give the tools to do the job. It's extremely important to do all three if you really want your people to execute at a high level, right? And listen, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. But what do we do? How do we get up and how do we keep going? You and I were talking earlier. Expectations from members that pay dues has gone up year over year over year over year. With technology now, right? It was kind of
Well, dues are getting more and more expensive.
Yeah, but I get it though. I 100% get it. So how do we, as general managers, keep our staff, give them the tools, and so we can keep that level of expectation, level of service to the degree of expectation? There was a time, man, we were just trying to meet expectations, right? And sometimes that was hard. So we have 1,630 member families, right? How do we treat each member the same by treating them differently? Right? That's the key, right? People pay us for the right to pay us to use their club. Think about that. You pay me dues, right? Then you're going to come and pay for golf and food and beverage again. So our job is to ensure that we are giving you the level of expectation that you deserve as a dues-paying member.
Yeah, you don't want to be able to go to the restaurant down the street and get a better
Exactly.
better
Exactly. And it's a challenge because we're talking about employees, right?
Yeah.
We have some employees that want to jump from job to job to chase $1, right? Realize that, okay, $1, then it's really sometimes it's not about the money, right? It's about the experience of that employee. So if our focus was only towards taking care of the members and not the employees, you're going to lose. The reality of it is if you take care of your employees, they will take care of the members. Things will start to take care of itself, right? So sometimes we have to reposition ourselves to pay a little bit more. But how do the staff feel when they walk through the door? Do we speak to everybody? Do I walk past a staff person and say hi to a member before I walk past that staff person? Absolutely not. I go in the kitchen every day, go down to outside services, and I give high fives to everybody. Everybody from that line cook to that dishwasher, all the way down to the guys who's cleaning the carts. Why is that important?
I've seen you do that firsthand.
Because they're forward-facing to the members, right? And if they see that coming from me, they're going to know that I expect that to them with the membership. It needs to be reciprocated. So
I had somebody having a similar conversation to this on this channel, a guy named Clay Scroggins. And he's a leadership guru, and he wrote a book called How to Lead When You're Not in Charge, okay? And we were just kind of talking about just the challenge of motivating that entry-level employee. And he really brought to the attention of those people who pursue excellence in the small things, it will make it that much more clear in the big things that they're excellent. And it really made me think about these frontline employees that are in the golf industry. Sure, you can be a frontline employee at the local restaurant or whatever. But when you're faithful in those small things as a frontline employee in the golf industry, there's a lot of opportunity that can come out of the golf industry, whether it's in the golf industry or it opens up an opportunity with one of those members, right?
Absolutely.
And so, man, if anybody's watching this who is a frontline employee in the golf industry, they need to understand that what they're doing right now on the day-to-day basis of being the best that they can be at that job that they think might not be that meaningful, I mean, it is going to pay. It's going to have reward.
Well, one of the reasons is because private clubs is all about relationships. It really is. I can't tell you how many employees I've lost. They pursue great opportunities with the people that they serve on a daily basis. And it's huge. I don't get upset about it. It's a great opportunity for them to advance their own careers or to better their lives, right? Hate to lose good people, but the reality is that is the basis of a private club and what we do. Right? If you don't build relationships, you don't think about that every day you come in, then you shouldn't be working for me.
No, any large company who has a significant frontline staff has to realize that they want their employees to excel and they want their employees to move up, whether it's with them or not. And so that's good. So talk to me a little bit about what Invited's doing. You've already said some amazing things. Invited, which used to be Club Corp, has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
But it seems like there is some really neat momentum, and they're doing some really neat things right now. For you and your role as a general manager leading people, how do they kind of support you with that?
What I love about what you just said, you're right. So the support comes in many different forms, right? And in a for-profit organization, right, financial partners are important. But what I love about Invited is that they really understand we're not going to make it financially if we don't invest the money and the resources towards taking care of the member experience, right? And sometimes a lot of times that wasn't always the case with certain companies, right? Is get the money first, and then let's figure out how to take care of the members, right? But what I love about this is that it frees up me as a general manager to really focus on the employees and the members, right? It becomes full circle. Now, do I have to make business decisions daily? Sure I do, right? Do I call the VP and say, hey, I need your help with this? Sure I do. That's the subject matter experts. Do we get on the phone and say, hey, why are we trending this way? Absolutely. Yeah. But the reality of it is all those people are in line to help me run my business successfully. So one, I would say the resources that they provide, right? The manpower outside of the club is huge for us, right? Any successful organization, especially what we do, you're going to need those levels of leadership. And then, ultimately, I just think it comes back down to the culture of the company, right? When I say, and I think I said this earlier, you have Dave Pillsbury, ex-president of the PGA Tour, right? You have Bob Morris, our COO and president, right? You have Chuck Feddersen, the executive vice president of the golf club division. All these three individuals, I got every one of them on speed dial. If I need to pick up the phone, and I just call them. Yeah. And nobody's upset if I go from one guy to the next guy, right? So when you have that straight line type of
we've worked for some.
Yes,
we've worked where that's a challenge.
Exactly. It is not. It is the greatest feeling in the world.
You don't feel like you've got to watch your back?
No, and you know this. We've been there, right?
Yeah.
Where we're stepping on eggshells when we come to work. It is not that feeling. Now, do I have to perform? Yeah. Yes, I do. I have obligations. I have to meet financial goals. I have to meet members' expectations. If I don't, then I could have to be sat down and talked to. But the fear is not there, right? Now, I get more in trouble for not trying things versus trying things that fail. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? So it's easier for me to get up and come to work on a daily basis. And it's work. It's a lot of work, right? Because you're managing personalities per se, not just from a membership perspective, but from an employee's perspective as well, right? So I love the whole culture of it right now.
That's good stuff. Well, I think we're going to need to wrap it up a little bit, but I want to hear, is there anything new that you're working on right now? Anything that you feel like you want to promote at all to this community?
I do. I tell you, I'm excited that we have actually just started the renovation of the Queen's Course. When I saw you last time, we had just came out of renovating the King's Course.
You did a great job.
And it's a beautiful golf course. We are putting in a new sub-air system for the bent grass on the Queen's Course. We're excited about it. We just shut down this past Monday. Expectation is that we're going to be open late October, early November. We got to make that timeline. So
I'm doing a remodel in my house right now, really? And I'm telling you that sounds like a difficult timeline right there.
Well, I got to tell you, it's exciting to be a general manager that's having all these projects. Pickleball is huge now. So Invited is now the world's leader in pickleball courts, right? Wow. And pickleball, we have Brookhaven Country Club. They just embarked on a 26 court addition to that place there, and I think. Don't quote me, but I think 14 or more is going to be pickleball courts, right? So we're excited about everything that's going on, not just at our club, but within the corporation itself. Yeah. It's a good time to be part of Invited, man. It really is.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, any last words at all?
No, I got to tell you, I appreciate you. I remember working with you, and you were kind of the quiet guy that could hit the crap out of a ball too, I tell you. So I appreciate you inviting me here, and good luck to whatever you are doing and going to do here now and in the future. And if I can ever be of service to you again, just let me know. I'd love to come on again.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll do it for sure.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.